Hey there, this is Mobile Agent TV, helping agents stay on the cutting edge from coast to coast.
Welcome to Mobile Agent TV. I am Michael Thorne of Remax, Little Oak Realty in Langley, BC, and my co-host, as always, is Dave Falkware from Bridgewater, New Jersey's Remax Preferred Professionals in the Enviro Realty team. Dave, can you believe it? Season number 4.
I can't believe it, actually. Every time, I'm getting old, and man, this is just flying by. But we've been having some fun. 4 episodes we were going to do. Here we are.
And now it's 4 seasons, so here we go. Here we go. During the show, you can interact with us on Twitter using the hashtag MATVLive, as well as I'm going to enable the Q&A feature right now, and you can use the Q&A right there in the blog if you're signed in with Google, and you can vote the questions up, vote the questions down, and we'll get them asked of today's guests. We call it Mobile Agent TV because 4 years ago, 3 years ago, Dave, we saw the continued direction mobile was going to go and how it was going to impact our business initially, or that's why we initially chose the name. Today might be the most mobile show we've ever done, as our guest is on the road, on a mobile device, bringing us a ton of value here. So before we introduce today's guest, which you all know and is coming up here in a second, I just want to let you know what we have coming up at the beginning of Season 4. We have an unbelievable lineup for you guys. Next week, February the 5th, we have the Scott Stratton on the show who's going to bring it. I know our guest is a big fan, and we'll get into that in a second. February 12th is episode 100. We will be bringing you a blueprint for real estate success. We're going to give you 10 key things that we've learned on the show over the last 3 years from 10 experts, and you're going to follow these things, implement them, and you're going to have a better real estate business because of that. That's episode 100. Then on February the 19th, we have Chris Smith on the show to talk about Conversion Code, his new book, which is already an Amazon bestseller. We might have a couple bestsellers on the show here right now, one today and one on the 19th. And then on March the 1st, we're bringing you Mobile Agent TV live from Remax R4. Just like to show you our new shirts. Look at this one. One of the most common sayings on the show, you still got to put them in the car, something that Dave says all the time. So if you want to get your hands on, you still got to put them in a car t-shirt, you can go to mobileagenttv.com. Just click on the link there. All proceeds of the shirts that we sell go to Motorcycle for Miracles, Bruce Johnson's efforts to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. And I'm proud to tell you guys that Bruce's efforts, along with the amazing Remax World, has pushed his earnings over $100,000. So congratulations to Bruce and Motorcycle for Miracles. Now, one of the last times, Leigh's upside down. One of the last times, well, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and introduce today's guest right now. I'm going to pull up her Twitter bio because it has changed. She's updated her bio. Today's guest, you all know her, you all love her. She's one of the great clear voices in our real estate industry. You can get her on Twitter at Leigh Brown, Leigh Brown, the no BS realtor in Greater Charlotte, North Carolina, international speaker. He uses real estate for comedic material. Tweets are my own, as though you had no doubt. Hashtag sells CLT. Welcome back to the show, Leigh Brown.
Hello.
Now
I can't believe you guys are in season 4.
It ran long, and you're going to do the show from the driver's seat of your automobile.
But I'm safely driving at 10 and 2, as you
10
know.
and 2. We'll keep an eye on that. If anyone sees the hands
so
drop from 10 and 2.
obscure.
Now we're going to get into a book, Leigh, that you've just written called Outrageous Authenticity. Dave and I had an opportunity to get our hands on the book. It's absolutely fantastic. I was talking to you before you got on the air, Leigh, that this is far more than a real estate book. This is a business book and perhaps even a life book. And the lessons in this book are absolutely fantastic that will really give you the fundamentals to build a business. I think for me, Leigh, there was a lot of takeaways in the book, but as you know, I approach my life very similar to you with some sort of authenticity. I think if there's people that are struggling with that portion of building their business, I don't think there will be a lot of takeaways from this book. I think it's a game changer, an awakening for these people. So let's start there, Leigh. Why write a book? Why this book?
Well, what's really funny to me is where we are in the American political cycle right now, where we have at the lead of our presidential race arguably the most offensive, outspoken, non-politically correct person who's ever run for office. And then, of course, has Donald Trump. And everybody's kind of like, I don't know if I like him, or I'm frightened, or it's a mix. Am I scared? Am I happy? I don't really know how I feel. But people have feelings all of a sudden, and they're talking. And why I had to get this book out, I mean, I have spoken to so many agents, and they don't know how to be themselves anymore. And I don't think we know how as a society to be ourselves anymore, because we've been so told we have to fit a mold. And I just want to kind of give a blueprint, maybe a spot of light to people, because they don't want to be bland. And I'm already hearing from people, I mean, it just came out today on Amazon, and I'm hearing from people who pulled it on their Kindles and they read the little intro that talks about how you hate cocktail parties because you know what you're supposed to do, but you don't want to do it. And they're like, that's me, that's me. I'm like, that's why I did this. Because you're not alone, and we all feel alone because you feel like you're supposed to, you know, check all the boxes.
But we've sort of been conditioned this way, Leigh, to temper our authenticity our whole lives in some manner, you know, make a good first impression, you know, mind your opinions. Which is all good advice, but at some point we've lost who we actually are at hopes that everybody will like us, opposed to genuine connections with a handful.
And whose idea was that everybody has to like everybody else? I don't like everybody. I mean, I have been telling people for a long time that I'm trying to run an asshole-free business, and my real estate grows the louder I am about that. When I was new in real estate, trying to sell a house to everybody or list every house, I was not happy. And when you're not happy, you can't be successful. I don't care if you have money or not. If you're miserable, it doesn't count.
Okay, so what? And we're going to get into like the book is broken into, and I encourage you guys. Dave and I have never led you astray, I don't believe, in 3 seasons of the show with any of the technology we've shared with you or recommendations. This is a go read book. Like, this is go out and buy this book, and it's broken sort of into sort of maybe a blueprint or a pathway of sort of building on your authenticity, figuring it out, and then sort of implementing it. Leigh, what's the difference between, and maybe it's just your title, but is there a difference between authenticity and outrageous authenticity?
Well, at the end of the book, I kind of expose that the reality is that none of this should be outrageous. It should not be outrageous for us to have opinions. But in a society where we are being told to never offend anybody, never get off the plantation, always do things the way you're supposed to do it, any bit of authentic, real person is outrageous. And that's the crazy part right now. And it's driving me nuts that we've got this whole generation, and our generation, the medium-sized Gen X people, we're just now starting to show any personality. These millennials have been trained from the get-go. They're trained at school. You don't ever push back. And we lose so much creativity, and you lose ideas, but more importantly, you lose yourself. And maybe that's why a Donald Trump is explosive in the polls, because he's finally showing that you don't have to look like everything has always looked. And I think people are embracing that, whether it's scary or not, because it's different, and different's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I don't know. You know, I read the book, and I sort of came away conflicted in a way, you know, because I'm old enough to say what I got to say and be authentic, but I think that there's like limits to it, and I think what's happened in society, like Leigh sort of just talked about, you know, Donald Trump is where he is because in my opinion, he's taken it. Well, it remains to be seen. I think he's taken it way too far, but he's still up in the polls. He's still leading. So I think somewhere down the line, this is all going to become, you know, the fruit's going to come to bear. We're going to find out what this is really all about very soon, very soon.
But Dave, isn't it maybe deep versus wide? I mean, maybe when you're trying to run for political office and you need 51% of the vote, it might come to bear. But isn't 4 quarters better than 10 dimes? And because Donald Trump, let's continue with this mod or this conversation, is being so authentic or whatever you want to call it, that his people that love him really love him, and the people that don't really don't. But if you're trying to build a business, would you rather have 4 quarters or 10 dimes? And so let's take this back to real estate then, Leigh. 4 quarters or 10 dimes, what would you rather have?
4 quarters all day long. And here's the thing, you have a finite amount of time to spend in your life, and you have a finite amount of energy. And so if you're going to expend it trying to be all things to all people, you won't please anybody, and you'll be exhausted, and you won't feel fulfilled, and you'll kind of feel like somewhere inside you had something to say, but you were afraid to say it. Well, what if the one thing you were afraid to say was the one thing that was a game changer for the whole planet? And we're not hearing people put that out there because they're afraid. And I don't know what they're afraid of. Are you afraid that somebody won't like you? Well, so what? People didn't like me in school either. I had friends. I had enemies. I think that's called life. And we're afraid to live a life that's got any discomfort to it or any moments where you have to question things and dig a little deeper. You know, I think Trump is being overly theatrical because that's who he is. He's a reality TV guy, and he's going way beyond where I'm suggesting people go, because if you know, a big part of my premise is opinions, you don't have to be hateful about it. So you don't be a jackleg. And you think about how polarized society is right now. If I tell you if I said right now, because honestly, I haven't picked a candidate yet, and watching the primary debate last night didn't help me, not nary a bit. But if I say I like Donald Trump, I'm going to get attacked from the people who disagree with me. It's not discourse and it's not conversation, it's an attack mode. And that's what I want to see go away. I want to see people have an opinion and defend it, and then maybe they hear something from the other side that helps them grow and change that opinion, and maybe they don't. But the attack mode has to stop. And I don't think it stops when people refuse to have opinions. That just means the loud assholes on either side control the conversation, which if you look at the breakdown in American society, and I don't know if you Canadians are better or worse than we are, but we have allowed in our politics the fringes to control everything. The loud progressive left and the loud Tea Party right is controlling things because the people in the middle said, screw this, I'll just sit back. And when you do that, you let the nasty people control it. I don't want my business controlled by nasty people. So going back to your 10 dimes, if in that 10 dimes you've got 2 assholes and 8 good people, it's the 2 assholes that are going to suck you dry, and then you don't do as good a job for the other 8. I'd rather do a really great job for 4 people who know who I am and respect that I'm going to go to the mat for them than have people who are going to do their very level best to tear me down. I'm tired of a tear-down society. That's way too many answers in 5 sentences.
So, Leigh, would it be fair to say, in a general way, it's not kind of what you say, it's how you say it?
Well, Dave, I think it's both, because it does matter how you say things. So anybody who knows me knows I am far more theatrical on a stage in front of 1,000 people than I am in conversation, because I'm on a stage because I'm hired to reach through people's barriers and have them hear something of value. So if I'm sitting down having supper with you, if I act like that, you'll be exhausted and run away from me. So it's knowing your audience, but it is what you say, because if I get on stage and I'm theatrical and I spew out the same milquetoast, bland crap that most of the trainers in real estate put out there, then I've lost an opportunity to reach people no matter how I delivered it.
But okay, Leigh, and I don't want to talk about you just being on stage all the time because your value is so much more than that. But what if that bland milk, white toast information is authentic? Does that matter? Or bland can never be authentic? Like, you know what I mean? Like we want people to be the
Well,
real
you know
stuff.
what? There's accountants in the world. I'm married to an engineer, and I love my husband, so don't mistake this for being anything but love. But my husband lives by spreadsheets. He doesn't want to mix and mingle with people. He doesn't want to be in a loud, boisterous environment. He prefers to be kind of bland in his dealing so that he can have engaging things with like 3 people. And that's okay because his brand of authenticity is not getting engaged with the rest of the world because he does think that people aren't worth dealing with in the large, vast numbers.
Okay.
But is there an audience that wants to hear him? Yes, because he speaks to their authenticity. So mine is not yours, mine is not Dave's, but the 3 of us are respecting of each other enough that we hear one another out. So when Dave gave me the feedback that the book was, I mean, he liked it okay, but it wasn't as good as hearing me present it, he's giving me that as a friend and a colleague and as somebody I respect, knowing that blowing smoke up my skirt's not going to help anybody, and it's his authentic belief. Now, I can't be on paper what I am in person, which is fine. I did the best I could on my first try, but it's part of my growth process is having conversations with people like Dave so that I get better. And then I fuss at him over his business model because I know I want him to be better, and he knows that when I boss him around and fuss at him, it's because I genuinely love and respect him and want him to be better, and he's actually better for listening to me. But if I'm not honest with him and delivering that opinion in a New Jersey way, because Dave hears things differently than Southerners do, I know this, but I tried to reach Dave because I want Dave to be better, and he knows me enough to know that even if I'm too much, it's all from a place of respect and love. And I think that's where, when you're outrageously authentic, people know that even if they disagree with you or if your delivery's off, you're coming from a place of genuineness and love and humanity. That's the key. It's not the content. The key is, where are you coming from? The bland speakers I'm talking about, you and I both know a lot of the people on stages are there for the express purpose of getting paid and for the express purpose of having people suck up to them. They don't care if the people in the audience are shifted and moved and bettered by their presentation. They just want to be on stage and get it done. And there's a difference, and the audiences know it, because people that are in sales, because my book is directed to people in any kind of sales, because I feel like the whole piece of sales industry is in need of some boosting up. I mean, I'm not trying to fuss at people as much as I am trying to say, do this. Who you are is enough, and it's amazing. So be that.
Well, I have 10,000 questions, Dave. Go ahead.
Just one little comment about what she said, and Leigh's spot on. I really do appreciate the advice she gave me, and for the audience, she did kind of beat me up a little bit, but we went
and what she writes.
She was 100% right.
It was
and it was one of the best things we did, is put us on a course that we never would have been on, and that's hiring an assistant to help us so we could grow our team and grow our business and help more clients. But with that said, and also the advice I had talked to her about the book, you know, I mean, I know Leigh, I've heard her talk, and then I'm reading this book, and I go, this isn't the same. It's not the same reading this book, but here's the advice I would give, because I read something yesterday. There's an audio book, and the audio book is not read by somebody they paid. I believe Leigh did it.
That is correct.
Okay, so my advice would be, buy the book, read the book for the blueprint so you have it as a reference, and get the audio book, and then listen to Leigh present this, and then go on YouTube and find her and really kind of, you know, listen to what she has to say on stage, and then I think put that all together and you'll get the message. Okay,
Leigh, were you born authentic, or did you grow into authenticity? And if you grew into it, what were the things, the advice that you would give someone who's trying to go on that same journey?
So what you'll never believe about me, but is 100% true, is that I was deathly shy and didn't talk to a soul until the 9th grade. I was you didn't even know I existed except for my teachers because I was teacher's pet, because I was the good kid in the classroom doing all the homework and helping out. I didn't speak up. And then my 9th grade civics teacher, his name was Glenn McClanahan. God rest. Oh, I love Mr. Mack. He's dead now. He died years ago because I'm not young anymore, damn it. But Mr. Mack would be wrong. And I would go up to him at the end of class and I'd say, but what you said is not what's in the book. That's not right. And he said, well, correct me. I learned to raise my hand and correct him. And he and I talked probably twice a week until he died. And he gave himself all the credit for teaching me how to speak up because he did all of that purposefully. He knew I was listening to him, but that I needed to learn how to raise my hand and object to an adult in a respectful way. So I started to shift then. I would say I wasn't really this outspoken, and people who have grown up with me are thinking this is pretty hilarious to see me on a stage and speaking out like this, because this is not how I've always been. I've had opinions inside, but I didn't let them out. I was a college Republican at North Carolina, Chapel Hill, which is a very liberal school. So there are like 21 of us in the college Republicans. So I started to learn how to express opinions in a world where it was completely upstream. And being a political nerd, that's a place where I've always kind of migrated. But it wasn't until I was in real estate and got very successful and got visible that I got attacked a lot. And when you get attacked, that's when you figure out who the hell you are. It's very easy to say what you want to say and be what you want to be around the 4 people who love you no matter what. It's an entirely different thing to be and say those things in front of an audience that knows nothing about you and is going to make assumptions. And I was having the nastiest things said about me on Twitter because my radio ad was next to Rush Limbaugh's show. And when I finally fought back and said, enough, if you don't like it, don't listen. You know, leave me alone, trolls. I'll advertise wherever I damn well please. And I finally let it out because I had been told by one of my really good friends, he's like, don't feed the trolls, don't feed the trolls, don't feed the trolls. Well, I finally fed the trolls because I couldn't take it anymore. And that's when the blinders came off, and I'm like, well, shit. I should have been doing this a long time ago. I feel better. I feel better when I am authentic. And if people are not going to like me, well, you know what? They can like somebody else. That's fine. I don't need to be liked by everybody.
Leigh, I'm gonna ask you a personal question based on what you just said. Then, if someone is not disagreeing with you but lying about you or misrepresenting your truth online, do you deal with that offline? Do you turn your back and be the bigger person, or do you say screw that? No, I'll put you in your place and do that publicly. Advice for someone being authentic. Do you go the back channels and deal with it? Do you face it head on, or do you turn around and walk away and thick skin it?
So it depends. If somebody's dropping F-bombs at me, I delete their comment because I don't think that's worthy of a conversation. So, you know, I do let out some cuss words from time to time, but I don't use F-bombs in public. That's in private conversation. And I'll never say GD because that's against the 10 Commandments. So any of the other words I feel are fair game, all right? But if you're going to attack me and start dropping nasty language on me, I'm just going to delete it. It's not worth responding to because that's proof that that's a troll. Now, there's other things that I respond to in private. If there is somebody that I know who makes a comment, I'm going to reach out to them and say, talk to me about this. But if somebody is just a generic comment in a thread, because these comment threads on the internet are just so awful. They're just awful. And so, like, these people last week that were calling me Gomer Pyle and making fun of my accent and telling me that I looked okay till I opened my mouth and why did I show my teeth so much? I mean, it was carrying on. I responded to every one of them publicly, and I said, why are you being so hateful? And they don't respond to that because they're not looking for me to have read it. They want to say it and be known as being nasty. I reckon that's who they want to be, but I'm not going to get into the fight with them, but I will ask directly, why are you being hateful? So yesterday, of course, that piece I did at Inman has been slightly popular because I kind of got fiery to preaching on Wednesday. And on the Inman News post about it, there was a comment this one guy had said, your excuse for not being PC is not an excuse for being discriminatory. And I replied back and I said, I don't discriminate against anybody. Where did you come up with that? And why are you saying this about me? And so because I responded to him publicly, he went back and deleted the whole comment. Because he wasn't looking for me to answer him. He wanted other people to rally around him, and that didn't happen. So he went away.
Okay.
So long story short, it depends.
Okay. Leigh, I mean, your husband was an example. Is there an opportunity for everyone in this business to be authentically who they are and see positive returns? Or are there some people that just don't have the makeup to be authentic, in particular the real estate industry? Are there some people that aren't able to embrace the lessons of this book and be successful based on their makeup?
No, I think this applies to everybody, but the caveat to that is that they have to remember that the Leigh Brown version of authenticity is not their version, because if you are an accountant personality, you are dry and you are boring to most of the world, and you love amortization schedules and you like crunching numbers, you love R value in installation, and you love to know that the studs are 16 on center and not 24 on center. If you would tell people you're like that, there's an entire piece of the public that would be completely drawn to you because they're, thank God, here's somebody speaking my language.
Yep.
Because most realtors are so busy saying, oh, houses are flying off the shelves, or here's a virtual tour, or here's a broker open, or I had closings, and they're not saying anything that could possibly be relevant to a consumer. So my consumers come to me because they want a direct answer on, is the price of my house correct? How should I get my house ready for the market? Because they expect me to cut through all of the fluff and give them straight answers. But somebody who's got that accountant mindset might not come to me because they're going to think this woman's too much for me personality-wise, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So I think it just becomes a matter of who are you? So if you're the person who nurtures the world, why are you not talking about your sales business in a way that lets people know that you are a nurturer? Other agents brag about showing 6 houses. You show 40, not because you're incompetent, but because you relate to the consumer that has a hard time making a decision. If I'm a consumer that has a hard time making a decision and I know there's an agent that's not going to judge me for that, that's who I'd call. But that person who has a fear of making a decision is probably scared to call Leigh Brown because they know my tolerance level is going to be far lower for how they operate, and that's okay.
And Dave, that's been a common theme too as well, is when you do put out, and that's, I mean, when we talk about video a lot, when you do put out your personality, it's the greatest qualification opportunity there is your personality, and you end up attracting people that relate to you better, and then you have a happier business. This is something we've talked about 3 seasons.
Well, absolutely. The other kind of aspect of this is, as we know, and Leigh kind of says it all the time, we have some assholes in our business, agents, okay? And I think reading the book and maybe give them a chance to not be authentic, because there are some people that just aren't, they're just not nice people. They're never going to be nice people. They got all kinds of other stuff going on in their life, and they can't clean that up and get out here and help clients. They're just all engrossed in whatever it is that's, not that, I'm not judging them. They went through a divorce. There's just bad stuff going on in their life, and they just can't get it and be nice. And that kind of authenticity is, got to filter itself out of here.
But Dave, on that note, the assholes that I don't want to work with, they are naturally drawn to the asshole agent because they're wired the same way. Yeah. And so that old adage of there's a butt for every saddle applies here. And I think it actually is way more, it's way more consumer-centric than the way we do real estate now. Is if we all had to put out 10 videos of 30 seconds or less talking about who we are so that consumers could see, hear, and evaluate who the agents are they're calling, the consumers would gravitate to the right people. Even assholes have people.
Yeah, but the problem in my mind is we as a listing agent, I need to deal with an asshole agent who has an asshole client, and it's just, you can't, there's no way around that. There really isn't.
That's why you have a team.
Well, you take care of that. All right, good. Good one, Leigh. Well, maybe make a note here. That's a new thing.
Leigh, I want to ask you a question.
I have to get an asshole buyer agent on my team to deal with it.
There you go.
That's right.
Leigh, I want to ask you, the shift of the mindset of the consumer towards authenticity is something that I think has happened, or maybe because as my business has grown, has become more successful, and we get older and more comfortable in our skin, the more authentic I get, the more it works out. But if you call my cell phone number right now, and you can Google my cell number, anyone can call it right now, and you listen to my voice message says, I'm either in a meeting or playing with my kids. Either way, I'll call you back later, right? And
yes.
And it's amazing. I have other agents leave me a voicemail and go, I can't believe you said that in your voicemail. And I have clients that go, that's the best voicemail I've ever heard. And so what is this fear? Because I think times have changed. I think we get to be authentic in all the parts of our business to our consumer, and they want it more than they did before. Is that just a result of being authentic, or do you think, honestly, we're changing, the times are changing, and the way the consumer is embracing authenticity has changed?
Well, you know, the fear part comes from being in an industry that says we have to work 24/7 to survive, and that if you don't work your client 24/7, somebody else will steal them. And that's a disservice not only to us, because we're allowed to have families and have a life, but it's a disservice to that consumer to basically tell the world, I don't think anybody has any loyalty, so I'm going to work 24/7 to keep them on lockdown, instead of telling your consumers, here's how I operate, and giving them an expectation level. So you're giving your consumers the correct expectation, and I'm going to wager a bet that you've never lost a deal because you said in your voicemail that you're playing with your kids. Instead, your clients probably say, hey, call me back when you free up. They are probably more than delighted to give you that space to be a human being and to be a dad, because they want that same thing in their life. And
but I think, Leigh, it's easier for them to connect with me, build a deeper relationship, so they become one of those four quarters. I think, and it's you too, as Leigh, is too as well, as I think when you do say that, you're probably talking to another father of young kids, and they go, I get it, and it deepens that relationship. Why are we afraid to have the opportunity to create more quarters and less dimes? I guess that's, you know, and that's just the way, deep versus wide. This is just this common theme, and I just think it's changing.
It is, and I'm not afraid of losing my clients to another agent who is looking to horn in on the relationship, because the reality is, if I haven't got the right kind of relationship with my clients, they're not clients. So if somebody else can horn in on it, I didn't do my job properly, and that's okay. So I refuse to believe that I own people and they owe anything to me. What I believe is I have a responsibility to be an expert at what I do and to continue to grow my knowledge base so that I can be a better service to the people who rely on me to be their trusted advisor. And the people who love me for that are loyal to me, and the ones who aren't didn't see the value there, so maybe I have more work to do. Maybe the finger points back at me at that point. I just don't believe that all these new licensees are a threat to my business as long as I'm doing the right thing for people. If I start to suck, people should totally take all my business away, but I'm trying not to suck.
Okay, then I'm going to read a quote from your book, and it has to do with the word salesperson, which we're salespeople. There's no doubt, but it's one of those words that I hate to hear because of the way that it's being manipulated. That word's been manipulated by the public and by our industry. But you say this: the issue with salespeople is that the perception is that you're focused on the sale and not the person. And you say in the book, people recognize that you're not the kind of person who will say anything to make a sale. I think that's one of the things, takeaways in the book that's transformational. When you are authentic, when you can clearly let them know that you are there for them and not the sale, then things change instantly. It goes from being transactional to relationship. How do you make that change from I'm going to try to sell you something so I can feed my families and meet my goals of 52 sales in 52 weeks versus I'm going to take care of you because I care about you more than my bank account?
My daddy told me on the first day I got in real estate. Now remember, my daddy got in 1978, and then I joined him as a buyer agent. So I started in this business as a team member because my dad believed I needed to know what I was doing before I was set loose on the world. And I believe that's a model of that. We should talk about future models of real estate another time. But when my daddy sat me down, I was single. I had only what little bit of savings I had. I was going from a salary world to a commission world. And when I started real estate, I was still waiting tables at night because I needed the cash. But Daddy told me, when you're doing real estate, if you do the right thing all the time, the money will come. And you can't ever focus on the commission check because that means you're focused on the wrong thing. And so he drilled that into my head. If you do the right thing, the money will come. And he was right. It enabled me to tell people, don't buy this house. Maybe you should wait. Maybe this is not the right number, because I did have my rent paid, because at the time I didn't own a home. I had my rent paid from the restaurant. I was working at an Italian restaurant where I literally sang for my supper because we had to wait tables and stop and sing every 15 minutes. And that was where I paid my bills from while I got started in real estate. And there's a power to that you can't trade, this idea that it's going to be okay. And when you get successful, it's also really powerful to walk into a listing and look at somebody and say, look, my mortgage is paid whether or not you sell this house. Or to say to a buyer, my mortgage is paid whether or not you buy it, so let's do what you want. I'm cool. And when I've said those words out loud, because I've said that, and I can find tons of clients that will say, yeah, Leigh said she didn't have to sell this house to get her mortgage paid. It takes their fear level down immediately, because in the back of their head, they're worried that we're selling. Yeah. And I can take that fear away by saying, I'm cool. We'll worry about you, because I put it right out there. It's not
No. Are you saying, Leigh, because your pricing strategy, which go back and learn that from Leigh's, your 7 to 10 scale as being fundamentally, it's changed my business, Leigh. Do you mean literally you say to your client, look them in the eye and go, my mortgage is paid, that's not a concern, and the reaction is positive, because I could see that is a very beneficial way to present that to a client.
Buyer or seller, at some point in the consultative period, what I say to them is, my mortgage is paid whether you sell this house or not, or my mortgage is paid whether you buy this house or not. We're going to do what's best for you. Because you know what the consumer hates about realtors? They're afraid that we're making them agree to a price that's too high because we need to get paid. Yeah. They're afraid that we're making a seller take too low a price because we need to get paid. And if you take that fear away during the consultation period, and then, by the way, you got to prove it with your actions and your words and your market research and your ability to convey that education to the consumer. You can't just assume that that's enough. You have to back it up. But you can resolve a lot of the fear that they haven't even put words to, because you know that fear is in the back of their head. So let it come out in the public. If you want to take power away from words, you say them.
Wow. Okay. Now let's take power away from words. And I love this, Leigh, because I honestly do have no clue. I'm 50-50 on which way you're going to go on this scenario I'm going to present to you. One of the words that I can't stand in our industry is the word script. And perhaps 23 years into this business, I have scripts that I have honed myself because I know the right way to phrase things to connect with a consumer. So I want to show you I want to give you an example. That's a real example that happened on Facebook. One of the questions in a Facebook group was simply, and no one's at fault here. It's a great conversation. Someone said, "What do you do to follow up with your consumer post-listing presentation?" And I wrote in there that after the listing presentation, I drive away somewhere between their home and my home. I pull the car over. I pop open my cell phone, and I send them a personal bomb just saying, hey, thank you very much, relating to maybe something that was touched on during the conversation. Thank you for the cup of coffee. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to type and touch, and that's what I do. But I said I respond with a personal bomb. And the person responded back, great, what's the script that you use? And my mindset, my response was, you've just sat down in their homes. You've just spent an hour talking with a husband and wife and perhaps met their kids. You've just outlined what they're trying to achieve. Isn't there a point at that point of authenticity and relationship building that there's no need for scripts, Leigh? Like, can't we just connect with people, or are you a person that says, no, there's a script, there's a system in place, and we follow it? I would love to hear your thoughts.
There's a script, there's a system in place, and we follow it. But here's the thing, the script is your jumping off point. And the reason I believe in scripts is not because it cans anything, but because it makes it a more consistent experience. So if I have as a very consistent script in my office, on my team, and coming out of my mouth, if you are a buyer or seller who calls my office, before we dig into anything, we're going to say, may I ask you a few questions? That's a script. And it's a very important script because we are permission-based with the people who've called us. Most agents dive right in because they're afraid that consumer's going to get off the phone. So I got to talk as fast as I can. You ask permission first, now you can get into your questions. And so there are certain scripts that we never deviate from. Everything else is a natural flow of the conversation, but you've got to remember this. The consumer expects you to be a professional. A professional is going to hit the highlights every single time. You don't use scripts in some way, shape, or form, you're going to deviate. And when you deviate and start to ad-lib, that's when trouble kicks in. I think we all know that. When you didn't do the listing presentation the same way that you usually do, you forgot a very important something. When you didn't go over the contract because you were rushing, because you had 30 minutes before your plane left and the consumer needed to get their offer put in, and you shortcut it, you forgot something important. Scripts just allow you to create a more consistent experience. So what that person was asking was no more than, what's the guideline by which I follow up? And they don't really know what to say because they don't want to be salesy. I know why these questions come up. People don't want to be salespeople, but they want to sell something, but they don't know what to say. They don't want to say too much or the wrong thing, and I need to close for the sale, but I don't know how to close for the sale, and they're very lost and confused. So another script that I use all the time is when I'm going to go show property, which I don't show to buyers very often because A, my schedule, and B, my patience level is way too low for buyers. But when I do a consultation, I say to them, every time we look at a house, I'm going to ask you if you want to buy it. And they say, all right. And then we go look at the property, and it might be a dog house, overpriced, the sellers were home and naked and laying in the bed, dogs peeing, there's poop in the toilet, you know, the really worst showing. And I look at them, I say, y'all want to buy it? And they're like, no. I was like, look, I told you I was going to. And they say, ha. And you throw it away. You go to the next house, and it's, You say, hey, y'all want to buy it? Like, Like, okay, we'll keep it in the pile. And then when you get to the house they love, their eyes are sparkling, and they're twinkling, and they're doing this because they're waiting for you to ask them. And then they say, and I just kind of stand there, and they're like, you going to ask me? Ask you what? Ask us. Y'all want to buy it? Yeah, I want to buy it. Well, now you've taken it from being a script to being a part of the flow of conversation. And for all those people that are sales averse, it's a way to ask a closing question without feeling like, hey, y'all want to buy this house?
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful, Leigh. Great advice. Dave is building a team, adding more pieces, and he's already has a team, but adding more pieces. Leigh, you've got a team. We're adding pieces to our team right now. Leigh, how does outrageous authenticity from Dave and Vanessa and myself and Jordan and Trish and the other team members, how do you allow members on your team to be outrageously authentic and still be within that brand? Is that the hiring process, or
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. This is hire slow, fire fast. So when we are hiring for our team, and by the way, my team is like the most amazing people on the planet. I can't tell you how grateful I am that they choose to affiliate with me, because they could all be superstars in their own rights, but they choose to be in an environment where we are supportive of each other and creating an amazing client experience, and that's what they want. So when we're hiring, we want people that fit that culture, who are strong, they're entrepreneurial, they'd be fine on their own, but they're choosing to collaborate to create an amazing client experience. And so their authentic lives are not the same as mine. We have different politics on the team. We have different loves of things, different hobbies, different opinions about stuff. We have really good spirited conversations. Every time I come back from a real estate conference with 8 new ideas of, oh, let's do this, and that leads to all these really great dialogue, because they're like, nah, Leah, let's think about this, because they're all strong enough that I don't have to come in like a hammer and drive the train by myself. We can all take turns driving the train. So the first thing you have to know is, it goes back to this idea of authenticity and knowing who you are and why you do what you do. So that's why I preach that book, Start With Why, all the time. It's so freaking amazing.
Yes.
So if you know why you're doing what you do and what you want to create in your life and in your business, it's so much easier to convey that to other people. So if we are interviewing somebody for our team, I don't do the initial interview, because I'll hire anybody, because I'm so busy trying to like people and believe in them and make them like me too. I'm terrible at hiring, but my team is fantastic. So one of my guys has this list of very intense questions that he asks, and my other girls are doing the personality stuff. And if it passes all their approval, they say, we have one we like, you decide. Well, at that point, I'm cool, because my people are cool. And we've learned that we're better off being a fewer number of people doing a better job and referring out the excess than we are hiring the wrong people. You know, we just let 2 people go, and they're both amazing people, and they're really great realtors, and they're going to do amazing things in the industry. They just weren't the right fit for our culture, and that's okay. But because they weren't the right fit, it would be a disconnect to the consumer, who thinks they're going to get Leigh Brown and then get somebody who's wired differently, because that creates cognitive dissonance. So the people on my team aren't Leigh Brown, but they are equally strong. So you don't have the cognitive dissonance. You have the consumer who says, oh, okay, I don't get Leigh, but I get you. All right, that's cool. Yeah,
good point. Leigh, I don't think you don't have patience to implement things that for no reason, and that's one of the great examples for you, Leigh, when you're using video all the time. You're using because it's an effective tool for you. You say in the boat, or sorry, in the book. All right, I Freudian there. That social media is a boat that you can't afford to miss, and I think quite often we get the perception that social media is a be busy tool for the sake of saying that you're actually doing something, and I know that you see it very, very differently, and you give some great advice in the book. Why do you believe that at all levels of your business, all sides of business, in 2016 moving forward, social media is a boat you can't afford to miss?
Because it's where people are. I mean, you can talk about long-tail SEO all you want, but we're in a website world where we're competing with freaking Zillow. I can't compete with their billions of dollars in venture capital money. I can do some cool things on my little website, but I can't compete with a behemoth. I'm okay with that. Social media allows me to build and enhance relationships I already have and add to my sphere people who are wired in a similar way. So, in fact, I'll give you an example, okay? So I was checking Facebook right before the show, and of course I posted about my book, because I honestly can't believe it's actually happening, to be really truthful with you. So I post everything publicly because I also believe there is no privacy left, so there's really no point in hiding anything. And I know the NSA is following me around. There's probably a drone above my car right now anyway. It's just how it is. So,
by the way, the North Carolina State Patrol tweeted me and want to know where your current location is. So there you go.
Well, see, if that actually happened, I've sold houses to approximately 12 troopers, so I would be fine. They like to talk about me on the radio. I've heard it because they see my car, just so you know.
Hands on a wheel. Hands on a wheel.
What? Look, no hands. That's good. So anyway, on this thread about my book, there's a comment, and you can look at it. It's like, I don't know, 40 comments down. A guy who says, I didn't know that the woman I see walking down the hill to pick up her kids at the car rider line and coaching at the local ballpark on softball was one of the top realtors in the country, the No BS Realty. He didn't know who I was. And so social media if you look at just that one comment, it says one moment in time, one person has connected a dot of somebody in my community I wouldn't have met otherwise is over here on social media, and he says, I've got to meet and get to know this amazing woman. So that's what social media does that you can't do with a regular website. You can't do it with your postcards and your mailings. And it's even hard to do it in that face-to-face environment where you're wearing your name tag in the grocery store. You meet some people, but social media is where somebody knows your friends, and then you meet them, and now you've got already point A connected, and you can see where they went to school and do they have kids. And by the way, this is all human conversation that may lead to a sale one day, and maybe it doesn't. But they're not going to build these bridges and build these connections when you're just the real estate all the time annoying person posting yard signs and closings, and I'm so blessed and I had 8 closings, and it's awful how most agents screw up social media.
Okay.
My whole point is use it, but use it right.
Okay, Leigh, let me then, and that's the next follow-up. It's not social media that's going to be the win for you. It's in the manner that you use social media, and the best way to fail at social media is to be vanilla, to not be authentic, because that's all there is just vanilla. The moment they get a little sense of authenticity, the game instantly changes. Yes. So in all the advice you give sales and whatnot, I think one of the most impactful places authenticity has in 2016 is on social, because that's the only thing that has a chance of cutting through the incredible noisy world that is social. And I know from watching your videos, one of the best things you do is when there is a topic, and you talk about this in the book, that comes up that you have an opinion about, that you think would add value to somebody else, you simply give your authentic opinion, and then that's the conversation starter. But I see so many people just put up posts that isn't really opinionated, and therefore will never start a conversation because it's just noise. Right.
Well, like the trainers who are out there saying, post what city you grew up in or when you bought your first house, and so somebody will be in that class and they'll write, when did you buy your first house? And they'll get 20 comments that tell them when they bought it, but you're not engendering any conversation. What's the point if you're not looking for conversation? And so I wish I could credit who originally said this, because I read it years ago, but it was that concept that Facebook is a dinner party. And so every time you see me post, it's something I would say if we were sitting down to eat supper, I wouldn't mind saying that to a table full of people. So I would totally say something about a listing I just listed if it has a red velvet upholstered ceiling in the master bedroom, because that's interesting and going to create a conversation.
Yeah.
It doesn't create a conversation if you listed a house with a master bedroom.
Yeah. And Dave, I mean, you're a big fan of the Facebook, and I think what Leigh was just saying, she asks a question or puts out some content at hopes and knowing that it will elicit a response, a conversation, and that's where relationships happen, is in this go back and forth and the communication. Otherwise, it's just you're just throwing crap out there, and you're not creating.
Yeah, and that's one of the downsides of social media, is that there's so much. Everybody now, we had opinion before. Now you can take your opinion and you can just shoot it out worldwide, no matter how ridiculous it is. All right, and that's kind of one of the. And then you get engaged in it, and it's very easy to do it. I mean, I'm sure we're all guilty of it. I found myself, and then a half hour later, I'm going, what the hell am I doing here? This is like nonsense. And I put the phone down. You gotta I put a post up not too long ago about it came from Darren Hardy about disconnecting from the matrix. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was
I told you I could only do 10 days in a year. I told you.
It was very interesting.
Very interesting.
It's like that's almost like impossible in the world we're in today. But I think it's valuable. It's valuable. Just sort of disconnect a little bit so you can become better at what you do, and you're energized if you could just get away from it a little bit. Very hard to do. Very hard. But it's good advice.
Leigh, I want to ask you a question. So here's a quote from the book. The very best salespeople are masters of asking questions and hearing the answers, and then asking more questions. They are masters of remembering birthdays, knowing your favorite color, and calling you when they have tickets to a sporting event that they know that you would love because it's their favorite team. They are masters of memory and human connection. So that's important. My question to you is, how do you, in your day-to-day real estate business, collect and organize those details?
So I am really good at collecting it, and I'm not very good at organizing it. So this is why I have really great people surrounding me, and it's actually one of the primary reasons I have a team. So if, like, one of my good friends just had surgery on Tuesday, well, I didn't know about it until yesterday. I need to get her a card in the mail. And so I've been on the road this week, and I've not been near a Hallmark store. So I call my office and I say, hey, I need you to get a card out to Mary Edna because I love her and I want her to have a get well card, and I don't want it to wait a week where it's no longer as relevant. And so she's going to get a card from me, and there's going to be a note put in my calendar to check up on her next week. So my great people can put things in my Google Calendar because we do everything in an office in Google Apps for Business. Yeah. And we keep notes in our CRM, which I use HighRise, which is the basically it's just a Rolodex that's produced. And we keep notes in there so we can remember birthdays, because I need to get about things like birthdays, but mostly I rely on my memory. I've got a freakishly good memory about real estate stuff. And I think a lot of your really good salespeople, it's just one of the gifts that they have. So if you don't have that as a gift, you just have to find the system that can allow you to help, or the human system that can allow you to be that person. You hire great people to do this.
Agreed. Dave, Leigh, it has been an hour.
What? It feels like 5 minutes.
It has been one of the best conversations we've had. We are bringing back 10 amazing people to lay the foundational blueprint for your business on episode 100, and you may or may not see Leigh Brown on that episode. Leigh, outrageous authenticity, guys. Seriously, Dave and I have been very transparent. We've never led you astray. We only tell you what we believe in. We've never taken an affiliate link from anybody, even though we're offered all the time. Go out and buy this book. You can go to outrageousauthenticity.com if you want the hardcover, right? And if you want to buy the Kindle version or the paperback, you go to Amazon and search Outrageous Authenticity, Leigh Brown, Leigh Brown. Is that correct, Leigh?
Yes, and if you want the audio version, it'll show up on Amazon sometime. They have the files, but I don't understand why it's not there, but it'll be there sometime. And the hardbacks I'll be shipping sometime soon.
Now, Leigh, I've had a number of people, and one of them being Jesse Peters, has asked me, hey, if I want a signed copy of Outrageous Authenticity from Leigh Brown, is it best to purchase the book now and bring it to R4, or will there be copies at R4 to purchase and have it signed there?
As long as my printer delivers on time, I will have hardbacks at R4, and they'll be signed up for you. So you can either bring your paperback to R4 or get the hardback there. But I will have a booth in the marketplace. I'm very excited about that.
That is fantastic. I cannot wait to see you, Leigh. Now, Leigh, you're selling real estate. You're one of the most engaging, honest, thought-provoking speakers our industry has. You are now an author. What's next for Leigh Brown?
I need to take a nap. I'm tired.
How about a movie, Leigh?
Oh,
a movie.
But I've already been told that the only TV station I could be on is Bravo, because I'm way too off the cuff for any other channel. So if anybody's got a Bravo connection, I need to belong on there.
Awesome. Leigh, how do people get a hold of you, connect with you and your Outrageous Authenticity on social media, email, send your referrals out in Charlotte, North Carolina?
Yes, send us your referrals. We'll take amazing care of them. But you can get me on Twitter at Leigh Brown. Facebook, I'm full of friends, and I don't really want to start any other pages. But you can follow me because I post stuff publicly. And my website is leahsells.com, and I try to respond to everything personally. So if you need something, let me know, because I do this for y'all. I don't do this for anything else other than I feel like I've got to use the gifts I have, and I hope everybody out there is doing the same thing.
Yeah, and Leigh, and to bring this full circle, I think that's one of the things that people are so connected to you for, and it's the fundamental message that's in the book. That is clear, that you love this industry, you love the people in it, and that's why people are drawn to your personality. If we were to sniff out the fact that you were in it to pay your mortgage and you didn't care about us, people wouldn't have the love and respect and admiration that they do for you. So
it's very similar to the message for buyers and sellers.
Exactly, and so this sort of outrageous authenticity, which I've definitely tried to walk the last 5 years, 6 years of my life, and it has been very, very effective for me. And perhaps I don't do it as outrageously as Leigh Brown, but I'll tell you that in your personal and in your professional life, it will not lead you astray being who you are. I just don't think. And Dave, you and I are the same people and have the same connection instantly, because there was no I wonder who Dave is. It was instantly we connected. And Dave, I know that you walk the same walk, and it's a foundation of who you are in your life and your business. Right?
Absolutely. I'm not disagreeing. You know what I mean?
There you go. So Dave, a takeaway from today's show? Do you think there's a takeaway for you? I mean,
there is a takeaway, something that I've kind of assimilated to clients a different way. But this thing about my mortgage is paid whether you buy this house or not, or sell it. It's like, I'm not here about that. I mean, I've said it in a lot of different ways. Matter of fact, there's a quick hit that just went up, and I'm on there about, and what the only little blurb I get and what I say is, you have to serve your clients. It's not about the money. It's not about the commission. Just go serve your clients, and the money will come rolling in whether you like it or not. Just take care of the people. That's all. Take care of them.
I totally agree. And you know what? It's so funny. I said I'm not into scripts, and then I realized that I've taken Leigh Brown's 7 out of 10 script. I'm going to take that script, and I'm also going to take, are you going to buy this house? So maybe it's the word that I don't relate to, the word the cardboard cutout script. I think it's a phraseology or whatever you want to call it, but I will definitely take away those are my takeaways. So just to remind you, next week, guys, Scott Stratton, and I think Scott Stratton is a bigger name here in Canada than he is in the States, perhaps. But
yeah, but I know who he is. Everybody should tune in for this one. It's going to be good.
Yeah, there's book. I'm selling. Dave's got the book, guys. The huge respect I have for Scott Stratton in the real estate industry, and he's not a real estate guy, he's a speaker, is the fact that when he takes the stage in front of a group of realtors as a consumer. And I think if there's one thing we need as an industry to hear more from, is what our consumers are actually thinking about us. We hear from other real estate agents, and then we hear about a lot of salesmen and trainers in our industry that aren't realtors and that aren't bringing us content as a consumer. Scott is going to come as a consumer in 2016 and just really, I mean, he's fantastic content, really, really great content. The next week, we're going to have our 100th episode. Come and celebrate with us, 100 episodes. We're going to give you a blueprint to a dynamic, successful real estate business. Chris Smith on the 19th, live from RE/MAX R4 on March 1st. Dave, season number 4 of Mobile Agent TV. You haven't aged a day since I met you. You're fantastic. This has been a friggin' amazing adventure with you. I love every moment we have together. 98 episodes. You're a dear friend, professionally and personally. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Oh, that's such a sweet bromance. Oh,
it is. It is a huge bromance. And Leigh, thank you so much. You've been the absolute antithesis of authentic. You've always been very dear to us. You've always given us your time. You've given me great advice on air and off air that has transformed my personal and my professional life. You're the real deal, Leigh. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for coming on the show again. This is, I think, time number 3 for Leigh Brown, and I appreciate you doing it from a very mobile place with no car accidents, no issues with the state troopers. That is awesome, Leigh. I appreciate it. So there you have. If you have any referrals heading out to the East Coast of the United States, get a hold of Dave Fuckware. He'll put you in the hands of the right RE/MAX agent. Any referrals coming out to the West Coast of Canada, get a hold of me, and I'll put you in the hands of the right RE/MAX agent. And as Melanie Galley of RE/MAX Marine wants us to end every show, please tell 5 other RE/MAX agents or agents from any company for that matter about Mobile Agent TV. We grow every week. We have had 3 years of content. We have 98 episodes in the bank. It allows us to reach out to amazing people that will give their time while they're driving back from meetings, like Leigh Brown. Thank you all for being so supportive of the show and this amazing journey that we've been on for the last 3 years. We're going to have a fantastic season on the show coming up for you guys all. Thank you very, very much. Dave, I will see you next week. We'll see everyone next week. And Leigh Brown, we may wink or may not see you in 2 weeks on episode 100. Thank you all for watching. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.